Welcome to another edition of Just an Opinion. Today is part one of my three-part series on somewhat unknown films. We're going to start with the 1980s. With VCRs, America was introduced to renting movies and allowing access to a library of whole new films. Consumers were not dependent now on movies and television schedules. It's fascinating to see how many films were produced in this time, given that more formats were available. With the horror and teen dramedy genres in particular, it's quite amazing how many films are forgotten and that weren't really exposed to a wider audience. Narrowing the list down to my top 10 of unknown greats from the 1980s was difficult, but hey, this is just an opinion. Number 10 is Clown House. The idea of a menacing clown was not new to cinema, but Clown House took it a step further by incorporating some psychology. A young boy is suffering from coulrophobia, and his nightmares come to life as three mental patients dressed as clowns terrorize him and his brothers. Typically, an evil clown is portrayed in a very boisterous manner. The clowns in this film, though, are silent, relying mostly on expression and the element of surprise to provide a terrifying performance. The movie incorporates physical fear, but touches on the cognitive side and ends with a chilling epilogue. Number 9 is Vision Quest. This film has a very simple plot, but it has so much more meaning within the journey of the protagonist. The title is Native American inspired, referring to sacrifice part of your well-being to achieve a goal as part of becoming an adult.
Yeah? What am I reading?
Doing? You're on a vision quest, man. You're trying to find your place in the circle.
On the surface, a high school wrestler wants to drop a weight class simply to face the top-ranked adversary, but along the way he experiences health problems, disdain from his teammates, and discovers love.
You're on some kind of ego trip, man. That's your problem. You're not a team player and you never was.
I got a bulletin for you, Otto. Wrestling is not a team sport.
Number 8 is House. This modern-day haunted house film combines both horror and comedy. Much of the suspense and chills derives from the lightning-fast transition between the two.
Sandy.
Convinced that his son's disappearance has something to do with his old house, Roger tries to unlock its mysteries. The film is very unpredictable as the story progresses. The special effects crew really knocked this one out of the park with their distinctive makeup and costume design.
Sucker.
Number 7 is The Chocolate War. This film delves into bullying and rebelling against conformity. Not very uncommon in 1980s films. But what makes this film unique is that it all centers around a chocolate sale to raise money for a school.
I like it all so much. Such a massive motion.
Ian Mitchell-Smith, most famously known as Wyatt from Weird Science, gives a remarkable performance in this film. Peer pressure soon turns violent as different forms of hierarchy start to lose control due to one person's convictions and his principles.
Locked up inside me.
Why Kingdom Come?
Remind me. I sit way too long.
Number 6 is Talk Radio. I think this movie got lost in the shuffle as Oliver Stone experienced enormous success with Wall Street, Platoon, and Born on the 4th of July. Talk Radio is a much more grounded work, focusing on a radio show host on the brink of national syndication.
Wait a minute, hold on. You told me the show's going national starting Monday night? When did this happen? I mean, don't I get a say in this? You know about this?
Yeah.
Dan.
Based on the life of former radio show host Alan Berg, the film deals with themes of isolation, controversy, and success ultimately leading to self-destruction.
I come in here every night, I tear into you, I abuse you, I insult you, and just keep coming back for more. What's wrong with you? Why do you keep calling? I don't want to hear anymore. Stop talking!
Number 5 is The Last American Virgin. The 1980s had an abundance of films featuring amorous teens on a hot pursuit.
Do you have the key to your grandmother's house?
No, but we can go to my house. My parents went out.
The Last American Virgin starts like a lot of these flicks, but shifts in tone a little bit once a love triangle is introduced. It even dealt with the controversial theme of teen abortion. Sadly, this film does not get the recognition it deserves. The principal cast featured some up-and-comers who went on to play some supporting roles in future 80s iconic films like Better Off Dead, Mask, and The Goonies. Number 4 is Cloak and Dagger. Before smartphones, kids actually had to use their imagination, so make-believe was pretty normal. After he unknowingly intercepts important military secrets, Davy's world is turned upside down as the adventure turns from fictional to quite dangerous. This film can be enjoyed on 2 different levels. As a kid, this flick was a very exciting roller coaster ride, seeing everything through Davy's eyes. As an adult, though, I focused a little bit more on the end of childhood themes that are represented in this film.
Come back, I can't do it on my own.
Yes, you can. You were always on your own.
I also loved how Davy's imaginary friend, Jack Flack, was played by Dabney Coleman, who also played his father. This is the heart of the film, as this dual role represents Davy's yearning to have a closer relationship with his father, thus he created a friend and hero in his image.
Dad, if you just play one with me sometime.
Good night, Davy. Too smart for a military man, huh?
Shut up.
Number 3 is The Midnight Hour. As odd as it sounds, this movie's inconsistencies are its strengths. A teenage prank goes wrong which unearths zombies, and vampires, and werewolves, and normal people who just never got to experience love. I can't quite put my finger on it, but there's something very endearing about this film to me. The characters and dialogue are corny, but fun.
Ghouls just want to have fun. Ghouls just want to have fun. It's Halloween.
The soundtrack oddly features more so oldies than 80s music, but hey, it works. And we even get a musical number right in the middle of the film.
Everybody should try it.
This hard-to-find movie has just become part of my Halloween lineup every year. Number 2 is Once Bitten. This film offers a different and comedic take on vampire lore featuring a young Jim Carrey. It's not quite a parody, but it doesn't take itself too seriously either.
Being a vampire in the 20th century is a nightmare.
The cast is well-rounded, all playing off of each other brilliantly. Jim Carrey showed he had a promising career in front of him, but I gotta say Cleveland Little stole the show in every single scene that he was in.
Okay, Sebastian, out of the closet.
I came out of the closet centuries ago.
Very amusing. Come on, help me.
We also get a very original 80s soundtrack, which is a huge plus in my book. The best word to describe this film is simply fun. Number 1 is Whitewater Summer. The film starts off as a fun summer adventure film as 4 city boys are taking camping with their leader Kevin Bacon. But the film takes a very dark turn as Bacon has some very unconventional and outright dangerous method as to how he can lead and educate the group.
Hey, wait a second. Hey, I caught those.
No, you didn't. Not the right way you didn't.
Oh, you mean your way?
No! I mean the right way.
I'm going back.
This is not acceptable behavior.
The suspense and thrills in this film are very extreme given the on-set location, and the character development is done very well as the four boys who start out as strangers but now have to rely on each other to survive. So that was my number one entry. But wait, there's one more. As I was writing out my list, I realized that my previously picked number one selection was actually released in the 70s. But I'm going to talk about it anyway. Massacre at Central High. Sounds like a horror film, doesn't it? It actually isn't. I would more so classify this as a revenge film with emphasis on bully culture.
Keep going.
Don't you people ever fight back? That's a very dangerous and ill-conceived notion, my friend. The walls have ears.
This film is much more cerebral than it gets credit for. The concept of bullying and their established hierarchy was not something new at the time of the release of this film, but this movie explores deeper into the primal urge for a new hierarchy to be established if the previous one was defeated. There isn't any moment of peace in this high school as the battle for control is constantly evolving.
These students crave an alternative to Bruce's brute force. We can supply it.
What can we supply?
Leadership, direction. Why, with my brains and your influence...
We're talking heavy changes. Those that aren't with us are swept away.
Thank you so much for watching, and maybe you'll add some of these to your future watch list. Would love to hear from you, so please leave a comment if you'd like to. I'll be back with part 2 of this series focusing on these somewhat unknown films from the 1990s. Thank you again for watching.